everyone. I'm Jared Bowen from WGBH Television and Radio. Welcome to the Centennial celebration this evening. As I mentioned, I am with WGBH Television and Radio. I'm the arts editor there and also host of our relatively new art show, Open Studio, which you can catch Friday nights at 8:30 and Sunday mornings at 11. I'm also the one they asked to MC when Lord Grantham and Randy Price are not available, but I am happy to be here with you all tonight. The Children's Arts Center was incorporated in 1914 and constructed in 1918 in partnership with the Museum of Fine Arts, an act that was both a simple solution and an incredible innovation. Actually, I think it remains innovative even 100 years later. It was innovative in that it was creating the first fine arts museum for children in the country, in a space that was designed to spark the imagination of its young visitors. And this is the part that I love. Artwork from the museum's collection was hung at children's eye level, brought here, and they were encouraged to sketch the images. We study history all the time, we talk about history, and we never, I think, realize that as much as we talk about art in today's society and how important it is for children, and we think that we're coming up with new concepts, and here this was being done 100 years ago, and it's still obviously done here and echoed in the halls of the Museum of Fine Arts. Over the years, the programming has evolved into innovative curriculum developed in-house that uses art as tools to foster academic learning, create an engaging learning environment, and unleash children's creativity. It's my pleasure in reporting for WGBH and telling these art stories to get to understand how people find art. And it's one of the questions that I ask everybody. There's a lot of conversation this week about The Cosby Show turning 30, it was 30 years ago this week that The Cosby Show premiered on NBC, and I remember asking Bill Cosby at one point when I interviewed him where his love of comedy and art came from, and it came from the indulgence of his grandmother when he ran around I think he told me when he ran around her sofa with her teeth in his hand. She laughed, and he realized he had an audience, and she indulged him. I apologize for the name dropping I'm doing here, but I spoke with Kristen Chenoweth a few months ago, just over at Symphony Hall, a few blocks away, and she told me it was a teacher that she had in high school who recognized the voice that she had, and it did not belong in a high school, it belonged elsewhere. And of course, everything that the Museum of Fine Arts does to bring children into those halls at such an early age so that they do not become adults who are intimidated by those hallowed halls, as I find that many adults are when they don't go to opera, or they don't go to museums, or they don't go to theater until an earlier age. When they go in as children, they know that they own that space. So what is happening here is what should be happening all across the country. So that's my little speech, what I appreciate. And it's sincerely why I love doing what I do, to be able to bring the arts as has been done here. But we'll move the program along, and I am pleased to welcome Bill Reserve, who is the current board chair and USCS champion, who has served on the board of directors here for more than 30 years.
Thank you, Jared, and welcome everybody. On behalf of the USCS board and staff, I'd like to welcome you all and thank you all for coming here. There are many board members present tonight, and they are really hardworking and should be acknowledged. So I'd ask all the USCS board members to please raise your hands, and let's give them a round and thank them. Feel free to talk to them as the evening goes on if you've got any interests that you would like to have addressed. Also, I'd like to thank Tom O'Toole and Nikki Stewart and Heather and Matthew for their work in arranging all this this evening. They've done a fantastic job. And I'd like in particular to thank all of our food donors and sponsors who are here. The food has been fantastic, and we really appreciate it. We appreciate all the friends of the Children's Arts Center and the donors and the sponsors of this evening who have been here, who are here tonight. And Jared already mentioned that we have partners in the Museum of Fine Arts, Northeastern University, the South End Historical Society, and WGBH, for whom we're very grateful. As Jared mentioned, the Art Center was incorporated 100 years ago in 1914. That's its legal date. In fact, this building was built over 2 or 3 years afterwards, and it was inaugurated in 1918. The first president of the Children's Arts Center was a very famous Boston architect named Ralph Adams Cram, who has designed some well-known buildings, older buildings in downtown Boston. And one of the principal speakers at the inauguration, if you will, of this building, the dedication of this building, was Charles Eliot, who was then the president of Harvard University. I dug out today just a short bit of the speech that Charles Eliot gave, and it's really quite pertinent to today as well, so I'll read this portion. The movement you have set on foot is in accord with the best doctrines now advocated for the improvement of American education, doctrines which relate to the training of the senses and to the cultivation in all children of delight in natural and artistic beauty. I wish that the Children's Arts Center might be enabled not only to maintain an exhibition of artistic objects, but also systematic class instruction in drawing and modeling. Such classwork under competent leaders would give members the best kind of training for their eyes and hands, and also teach them to appreciate the grace and beauty which lie in form, light, shade, and color. For these purposes, your excellent building is well adapted, and its situation also is appropriate. Those words were spoken of roughly this very spot 96 years ago, and I think much of the mission continues. As Jared mentioned, the principal sponsor of the Museum of Fine Arts was a fellow named Fitzroy Carrington, who was the curator of the print department. And originally this building was actually a museum, and prints from the print department were displayed on the walls behind me at children's eye level, as Jared mentioned. It wasn't until around 1930 when Charlotte Dempsey, who was the director of the Children's Arts Center for many years, came and began to introduce other forms of art like sculpture, oil paintings, watercolors, and so on from artists and galleries in the South End to complement what the Museum of Fine Arts was here. And the drawing program for the young children continued, and initially they were copying works of art, and at a certain point they said, no more copying. We want you to express yourselves and paint and create your own form of art. And that tradition has continued for these many years. The program now, under the very able direction of Chelsea Ravel, who is here and should be acknowledged, is here. But Chelsea and her staff have developed an arts program which also we bring into our early childhood education programs, which are right next door, so that the kids who are here, preschool kids and after-school kids and so on, all are engaged in art programs, as well as their other activities. So the activities here at the Children's Arts Center not only are strictly for kids who want to engage in the arts, especially in the summer, but also complement all our other programs and work together to make USES such a strong part of this community, an important part of this community. So with that little bit of history, I again would like to thank all of you for being here this evening. This is a great evening to celebrate the centennial of an important part of United South End settlement, and we look forward to continued and I hope robust community support in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. As we both just mentioned, the MFA, the Museum of Fine Arts, has been instrumental in the Children's Arts Center and for what it's done here. And we're pleased to have a representative from, a high-ranking representative from the Museum of Fine Arts, and Katie Getchell, to here speak a few words. Katie Getchell is the Deputy Director of the Museum of Fine Arts Boston and has been with the MFA since 1992. Before being appointed Deputy Director of the Curatorial Division in 1999, she held several positions at the museum, including Director of Exhibitions and Design. Prior to coming to the MFA, she was a curatorial assistant at the Guggenheim Museum, serving as a member of the team that researched and produced The Great Utopia, the Russian and Soviet avant-garde 1915 to 1932. Currently, Katie is responsible for curatorial administration, education facilities, intellectual property and business development, communications, I think her real title is Queen, protective services, and member and visitor services. Now, if I were to take off my MC hat for a moment and put on my journalist hat, I might ask Katie who the successor to Malcolm Rogers is going to be, but I would never put you in that position, Katie, right? Unless you wanted to give me a scoop. I don't think that's going to happen. I wanted to share it all with you. No, it's my pleasure to welcome a woman who I have enjoyed working with for many years, Katie Getchell.
Thank you, Jared, and thank you everyone for being here tonight. It's a great honor to have been asked to be part of the Centennial Celebration. You've heard tonight about how the beginning of the Children's Art Center is tied to the Museum of Fine Arts, the exhibition of prints from the museum in 1913, and I just can't help think back, especially looking at some of those historic photos, of what a forward-thinking idea that was of a curator at the museum and a community, someone in the community to decide that the museum wasn't a place that was particularly welcoming to children at that time. We like to think a lot has changed in 100 years, but nonetheless to bring prints into the community. And that really started what became the Children's Art Center and art making. I wanted to talk about the more modern aspects of the relationship between the museum and the Children's Art Center. A new chapter, after all those activities of the exhibitions and the art making, started in 1989 when we at the museum started a pilot program called MFA Artful Adventures. And of course, we looked to our most trusted and long-term partners, USCS being one of them, to initiate this new program, which a new generation of community teachers and museum educators plan together for a future of visual art making. And today we're proud to also recognize USCS as a founding partner in the MFA's Community Arts Initiative, a program generously supported at the museum by the Lindy Family Foundation, now in its 10th year. Through the initiative, the museum makes art-making activity in after-school programs throughout the community focused on artworks in the museum's collection. In the past 9 years of the Community Arts Initiative, more than 4,000 students have taken part in art making at their organizations and visits to the MFA and guided tours of the museum and galleries. And one of the greatest nights of the year at the museum, in my opinion, is the night in the spring when we open the the Community Arts Initiative art making project. And the audience is full of kids and their families, many from here and other community organizations, and they all wear tags that say artist, and they very proudly wear their tag that says artist in their name, and they cheer, and we have we might not have the art necessarily at kids level, but we have pizza and mini egg rolls and food that's attractive to kids as well as their families. And it's just a thrilling night. There's no more exciting opening at the museum annually. Our partnership goes beyond that. As a partner of the Community Arts Initiative, there are many more opportunities for USCS families and staff to connect with the museum, from no-cost memberships available to families here, and open house and community days that we're able to offer at the museum. Our partnership with USCS continues to reinforce the MFA as a resource to the community, and one that we're very proud of. As a resource to the community, I congratulate you on the Centennial celebrations. The vision of your founders is still alive today. I can see that in the art-making activities that our staff and others are participating in this evening, and the great support for the work that you do. So thank you again for inviting me to celebrate with you, and congratulations.
Well, over the years, the Children's Arts Center has had incredible champions. Fitzroy Carrington, whom we just heard about a few minutes ago, the curator of prints at the museum, who envisioned a, quote, little museum for little people, and was instrumental to the launch of the Children's Arts Center in 1914. There was Charlotte Dempsey, who served as the CAC's director from 1930 to 1971, who developed a series of art classes that brought CAC international acclaim. And of course, there's Allan Rohan Crite, a renowned artist and alumnus who was a champion for the CAC and the artists living and working in the South End. I actually had the pleasure of looking at an interview he gave to WGBH today. When they heard that I was coming here, they sent me this link. He was such an amazing character. I see Byron Rushing here tonight. I remember he talked about you in that interview, and this was about 20 or 30 years ago. He was such a force, such a character. So I now invite Bill Reserve, who will return to the stage with Chelsea Revell, apologies Chelsea, with Chelsea Revell, Director of Arts and Culture, to present the Centennial Achievement Award in honor of Mr. Crite to Jackie Cox Crite.
Thank thank you everyone for being here. It's my pleasure an honor to present this award to Jackie. We are very proud to have Allan as one of our alum, and as you can see in the silent auction, one of his prints is available. So, Jackie.
Thank you very, very much. This is quite special. And thank you all for being here. I have to show it off. I just want to say a couple of things. I'm sure Mr. Crite would be very honored and very proud of your attendance and continual support of the Institute here. This was quite a special place for Mr. Crite, and he started here when he was 8 years old in 1918. Wow. Yeah, and has been, until his death, has been very supportive of the Children's Arts Center, and had done a number of what we call thesis papers for the Arts Center over the decades, and just had been a champion and had always enjoyed the memories, but also wanted to be supportive and be active, and continued to be active. One thing I want to share, which is a personal comment, when Mr. Crite was about the age of these youngsters, he was extremely shy and did not speak until he was 5 or 6 years old. And everyone was very concerned, and his teachers especially, were not thinking very highly of him because he wasn't talking, he wasn't communicating. And one of his teachers suggested to come here to the Children's Arts Center. And he thrived here, and he did well, and he was here on weekends, and he participated in the wonderful MFA program, which was the Saturday and Sunday art classes for children, and became a wonderful student of the Museum of Fine Arts, of the Museum of Fine Arts School, which we have to always say, and literally has contributed so much to the South End. It's his home. It's so many great memories are here, and I just want to thank all of you for being here, and thank you for remembering him. Okay.
I might just add, Jackie, that not only do I remember him, having been on the board here for a long time, but I was really pleased when I went into the new wing of the Americas at the MFA that there was a painting of his that was hanging. I'm not sure that it's still there. They rotate them, but it was there at least the day I was in, and I said, gee, I actually knew this artist and so on, and had met him a few times, but his scenes, many of them here in the South End, were just wonderful Boston scenes. Thank you. Congratulations.
I don't know if you saw Katie nod. She said the painting is indeed still hanging in the Art of the Americas wing, which is fabulous. Well, I always endeavor not to be the killer of fun. I don't want to be the one to keep you between your food and your wine. So this concludes our evenings. Have a wonderful evening, everybody, and thank you.
This is the best art gift in the world.